Morning attendees, it's 10 o'clock on the dot, and thank you very much for joining today's webinar on fire safety, insurance and training as part of a series of Fire Smart webinars hosted by Agri SA. On the 13th of April this year, we hosted our first webinar, which focused on fire liability in partnership with Santam and African Data Technologies. If you have missed this webinar, you can have a look at it at Agri SA's YouTube channel. We are welcomed here today with attendees from the financial sector, fire protection associations, organized agriculture, and landowners, and attendees with a direct interest in fire safety and liability within agriculture. Fire risks are no new phenomenon amongst landowners. We have already been experiencing veld fires to some degree. Unfortunately, deliberating veld fires will remain a reality, even increasingly so due to the vegetation scorched by prolonged drought conditions, uncontrollable human behavior, including arson, and the effects such as climate change are increasing the risk of veld fires. The purpose of today's webinar is mostly to inform and empower landowners, fire protection associations, financial advisors, and those who have a direct interest in fire liability and management to understand the risk that we are facing and to be prepared. I am Andrea, the Risk and Disaster Manager at Agri SA, specifically looking after the needs of the agricultural sector when disaster strikes, funding to be made available, and coordinating disaster responses across provinces and across industries. Before I introduce the speakers to you, just a few quick house rules. We ask that all microphones be turned off. You are welcome to type the questions that you have in the chat box, and we will have a question and answer session after the presentations. This webinar is recorded and we will make it available to all the attendees after the event, as well as on the Agri SA social media platforms such as YouTube. The webinar is accredited and a certificate will be issued as soon after the webinar is finished to earn 1.5 CPD hours. This is only applicable to the financial industry. Any social media interacting today on today's webinar, you may kindly use the hashtag AgriFire. Should we not answer all the questions raised in today's chat box, we will circulate the answers after the event to the attendees. So I would like to start off by introducing the first speaker for today's webinar. Most of you are familiar with him. He is well known within the insurance industry and extremely passionate. This is the second webinar in which we have had the privilege to welcome Emil Pretorius, presenting on agricultural insurance. Emil is a leader with no title and a humble human being with the greatest sense of humor. He challenges himself daily to be a difference maker of note and to be the best that God created him to be. He completed his honours degree in industrial psychology at Northeast University. In 2004, he joined Santam as a regional trainer, whereafter he joined the Santam Agri team in 2013. He is passionate about agriculture and especially the insurance of assets with the knowledge of wording and cover of insurance policies. He describes himself as the biggest supporter of TCF, that is, treat customers fairly, and he is convinced that our country will be saved by agriculture. Emil will specifically be speaking about livestock insurance and public liability, which can, when fires impacts livestock severely by veld fires. Emil, we look forward to your presentation. Emil, you're still muted.
Jy sien ek begin nou vanmôre nou weer agterste voor. Thank you so much for the humble introduction and thank you so much everyone. I'm just going to share a picture of myself by means of the video clip. The only thing left over from COVID is my COVID measles. I gained weight. So with no further ado, I'm going to switch off the camera and then I'm going to share my presentation. Let me get the presentation and then we will be heading off to say I really want to thank each and everyone for this wonderful opportunity to share this prestigious platform with Agri SA, our farmers and our business partners. And yes, I am totally convinced that our country will be saved by agriculture. And I'm also totally convinced that insurance is nothing other than a godly principle where we all contribute and add towards a fund. And as Andrea said, when disaster struck, this is a wonderful investment in my sustainability. And I say this in humbleness. From 2017 to 2019 at Santam, we paid in excess of 40 billion rand towards claims. And then COVID 2020, we rewrote the record at Santam by indemnifying our policyholders or insureds by paying 21.1 billion rand for one single year towards claims. And last year, we once again rewrite the record for claims payment at Santam by paying 24.5 billion rand in terms of claims. And my dearest farmers, my dearest business owners, this is truly a confirmation that insurance is not a grudge payment. Insurance is truly an investment in your sustainability in every way. And yeah, at Santam, we challenge ourselves to say, are we just focusing on indemnifying our insureds or policyholders, or are we committed in other means by contributing towards sustainability? And it's in humbleness that I can confirm, and Agri SA will also confirm, that we as an insurance company really live out to our philosophy of do more than insurance good and proper, with the wonderful picture on the left corner where we contributed 3 million towards the Agri Relief Fund of Agri South Africa. We also had the wonderful opportunity to, until recently, report to Lizay Lambrechts as our former CEO of Santam, and now Tava is the new CFO of the company. And 2017, the Knysna fires, we were the first company to contribute 1 million towards the disaster fund. The floods in KZN, Eastern Cape, 2018, 1.3 million. And this year, we know the impact of the floods in the KZN. We were also contributing 500,000 towards the disaster fund. And I'm especially excited with the picture of the helicopter, where we show to the world that all the insurance companies can come together in terms of sustainability, where 6 of the insurance companies sponsor 2 Bell Huey fire helicopters, because we know the reality of fires within South Africa. And my dearest delegates, it is sad to note that when you stand next to a braaivleisvuurtjie, normally people will make the comment, but yes, the insurance is expensive, it's a grudge payment. But that is totally a wrong perception or assumption. Under the fire section, if I want to insure my building for an insured amount of 1 million, my premium will be 2,500 per year, or 208 Rand per month. So we're accepting the risk to indemnify you for damage or loss of the building due to fire or fire-related perils. And that's before risk underwriting. For in the open, let's make use of the same example. The insured amount of 1 million, 9,000 per 750 per month. And this is where the farmer says, yes, but bugger, why is this now no more the same as for the building? because the risk towards damage for fodder in the open due to fires is much higher. Sections livestock irrigation systems games 1 million rands of cover for the fire and fire related perils, 5,000 per annum, 417 per month. And I will now also reflect and focus on the public liability section. A general limit of 1 million will cost you 1,385 per month, or 100 per year, or 115 rand per month. And I'm urging everyone attending today that you really need to take time and attend to your public liability cover on your policy. I'm the most keen supporter of the umbrella liability. It's a section similar to public liability, but will act as a safety net, where you've got the option for 20 million and you only pay 900 rand per annum or 75 rand per month. The only perception that I agree with, and a comment or statement that I make, Renette always is confirming, it will be much expensive if you are not taking part in insurance, because you become your own worst enemy. I'm going to share 5 covers that we can connect to the title of today's webinar, Fire Smart, by starting off with Hero Persist. This is a value-added service that we add to each and every agri asset policy with wonderful benefits, and it's free of charge. Consisting of 4 benefits: personal health advice is available 24 hours a day, where I've got access to medical practitioners, a poison drug databases, audiovisual lab. For me, the most important to take note of is this emergency medical services, where there is a life-threatening challenge. I've got immediate access to an ambulance, paramedics, a helicopter, and even a fixed-wing aircraft. And yes, seeing that we're in the agri space, we know it may happen from time to time that there could be a land, a water, or a labor dispute. And part of this value-added service is my 24 free access to legal advice and the assistance in terms of documentations that I need to attend to. The crisis line confirm if there's a farm attack, if there's a burglary, if there's a fire, whatever the case may be. All that our policy holders needs to do is to phone our 24/7 emergency Santam SOS helpline. 0860 505, I see it as SOS 911. And this is where I normally ask the question, who will enjoy the benefit? And normally the farmer will confirm, me and my family. Indeed, you and your family, every employee, any guest or visitor will also qualify for the same benefit. Dearest colleagues, I also want to refer to the general section of your policy. This is where you will find the conditions, the provisions and exclusions. But there's one provision that you need to take note of that will apply to all the sections of your policy. And that's the claims preparation cost. In easy terms, it is cover available for reasonable costs incurred to certify or to prove your claim. And the amount is 25,000 with the option to increase. Under my livestock game, it's 10,000. Motor public liability, 1,000 with the option to increase. Now, this is vital cover for you as a farmer, because if there's a fire, you need to submit your claim, you need to submit reports like a fire report, and this is typical the kind of costs that we will pay in addition to indemnity. In addition to. The same, I've got stud animals on my farm. I insured my stud animal for infertility cover, and now all of a sudden I need to prove that this animal is no longer fertile. That expense is a reasonable cost to certifying your and to prove your claim in terms of my claims preparation cost that will be paid in addition to. For me, the most important section to our farmers out there is the public liability section, and I'm going to confirm with a comment that this is also the cheapest section on your policy. It is really of utmost importance that our farmers and brokers will really take time to attend to this section of your policy. And as a former trainer, the most super way to understand liability cover, I illustrated in making use of the illustration by hand to say, my thumb, I will be held legal liable. In terms of the common law, my actions was positive, negative, had an impact that there was damage and causality. I was negligent, so I will be held legal liable. Index finger confirming for injury, accidental death, bodily injury, illness to any person except members of the same household or my employees. I've got other sections that will attend to indemnification. The middle finger confirming I will be held liable for damage to tangible property. The fire started on my farm, spread to my neighbor and his neighbor and. There's no more veld, there's no more buildings, there's no more livestock, there's no more. I will be held liable for the damage to tangible property. The ring finger confirming, this is also the section where we will attend to the legal costs and expenses of our claimant, and the pinky, the cost of the insured and expenses with our written consent. Now, this section is really important to the farmers, as we know that the Fire Act number 101 of 1998 is a reality within the agricultural sector. Now, what happened? All of the insurance companies, with the introduction of the Fire Act, attended to an exclusion. And yes, at Santam, we also did the same, but we counteracted the exclusion with an extension spread of fire, where we confirm you will enjoy 250,000 and look, or the limit of indemnity, whichever is the greater. I always urge our farmers and our brokers, please attend to the extension spread of fire with a minimum of 1 million. And as I said, that safety net umbrella liability 20 million is really vital. If you neglect to do it, you will have an excess of 750,000. And I'm always making the joke to our brokers to say, this is where you may expect a visit from your farmer at your offices, and he will leave you on your desk a bouquet. It's looking like a bouquet, but most definitely not smelling like a bouquet. Fire extinguishing charges to prevent the spread of the fire beyond your borders is optional cover with 4 options: 100,000, 250,000 to 500,000, a million. Oh. Hello, it seems to me I lost connection for a moment. Fire extinguishing charges, just to confirm once again, it's optional cover from 100,000, 250,000 to 500,000 up to 1 million. And for R1 million, you will only pay an annual premium of 5,000 per annum. Livestock. Andrea, animals liability, straying, driven on your farm within the territorial limits is part and parcel of your general liability. For example, if it's R1 million, you will enjoy R1 million of cover, and the same will apply to the hunter's liability of your policy. Livestock section is the second last section, and I'm nearly done. For my farmers, and we know that livestock is in the agri space the biggest support in terms of 40% plus towards the agri activities. Enhancements on our livestock section is the basis of settlement, where the farmer now has the option to say, but I want to be indemnified in terms of the invoice price, auction price, reasonable market value, or agreed value. And the all risk of mortality is only available for my stat animals and will include transit cover with optional cover where I can add indemnity due to loss of an animal, due to illnesses, theft, and infertility. And you can go and check at Santam. Yes, we did attend to the definition of infertility, where the seed count of that animal is less than 70%. We will see that animal is infertile and indemnify our policyholder. Limited covers for the rest or all my other livestock, my herd. It's fire and fire-related perils that's also optional available. Attacked by wild animals and dogs. There's now a new enhancement with vet costs. My veeartskoste pre-loss optional, and capturing cost. There was a fire on my farm. I had to set free 1,000 of my sheep, and now I need to capture them again. It's cover that is available. And please take note of the importance of group personal accident section that is available for compensation due to bodily injury by means of an accidental, violent, external, visible means to the insured person. If I can take it back now in terms of being fire smart, we know the inevitable may happen that one of my workers could be killed or badly injured by assisting fire extinguishing. So the company will pay the insured on behalf of the insured person. So we will pay it to the insured. The compensation stated in the schedule due to death, medical expenses, permanent, temporary, total disability. So I'm ending off to confirm. Thank you once again for this wonderful privilege, and it's my sincere prayer that you will be blessed out of your own imagination with goodness and favor. And yes, we at Santam are humble, and we want to do business with our farmers, becoming one of your vennote partners in risk mitigation, but also investing in your sustainability. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emil, for this insightful presentation and being so passionate about insurance. We all should actually be so passionate to mitigate risks. Next up, we have Dräger, and we are welcomed by Wimpie van Onselen. He is the Business Field Manager and Emergency and Rescue Services. Wimpie comes from the military background, serving 10 years in the Sunday, specializing in electronic communication. He has been part of the Dräger family for the past 11 years. For the last 6 years, Wimpie has been part of the marketing and project management team and taking care of the emergency and rescue service portfolio that includes breathing and body protection equipment for firefighting and rescue operations. Wimpie will speak to us about fire safety and the importance of being well equipped when faced with fire control. He will also speak to us about training of these products and when in use in combating fires. Wimpie, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Much appreciated, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today and presenting to all the delegates. And I hope you guys will enjoy what I have to share today. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Let's quickly do this. Here we go. Okay, so thank you very much for this opportunity. This is a great privilege for Dräger to present our share in how we can protect you as a user of different types of fire equipment and what we suggest in certain cases, what type of protection you need for certain types of fire. So let's jump into this. So Dräger wildfires. How does Dräger look at wildfires? So Dräger looks at an overall strategy to say, protecting you every step of the way. This is our guiding philosophy when we talk about emergency and rescue services. How can we protect you from the beginning, before you even walk into a wildfire, up until the end, and how you protect yourself during this whole process? So my agenda for today is we're just going to have a little bit chat about hazards of wildland fires, the overview of wildland firefighting, protection for firefighters and emergency responders, and what can Dräger offer for you. So looking at the hazards of wildland fires, it has been on the news many times, and some fires, some iconic fires, yes. Okay. Some iconic fires like the fires that raged on in Australia is one of them. It has impacted the economy in Australia a lot. It had of the losses that people have suffered, and also the illness that came afterwards. We all know that firefighters develop an occupational disease if they do not protect themselves very well after a few years, and this is what we're trying to protect everyone against. And this is just an example of how big these fires were from a satellite point of view that happened in Australia. If we look at the effects to the public, we look at long-term health effects due to smoke, especially elderly and the young. We look at the economical losses, and we also look at reduced ability to travel freely all over the country because of the density of the smoke and also the fires that's raging on in these areas. If we look at some numbers, buildings destroyed, we're looking at 9,000 plus 3,000 homes, outbuildings 5,000, and then direct deaths from these fires were 34, and then 445 indirect deaths because of smoke inhalation. And this is where Dräger comes in to protect you, and I will get to that soon. If we look at this satellite view, this is a satellite view of Australia, and as we can see there, the smoke was completely enveloping a large part of the ocean side for the Australian, how can I say, seas. And if you didn't know, we circled the area where New Zealand is supposed to be, and they were completely covered in smoke. If you can look at the amount of tons of carbon monoxide, or carbon dioxide that was put into the air, was about 434 million tons of carbon dioxide. So this is a real risk and a real problem for wildland firefighters. And then if we look at global fires on this 2019 statistic, you can see there that South Africa is one of the orange sides, that has one of the most fires. And then looking at Australia and those places, some fires are just out of control because of some of the firefighters and the people that's fighting the fires don't have enough support to look at and kill these type of fires. So when you look at wildland fires, who works at these wildland fires? Because you always see just the firefighters run in there, and we've seen in our National area and the Cape area, those places, that you see the guys working on fire running in there, trying to solve the problem. But there's a lot more people involved. Your normal firefighters, your urban and rural fire authorities, police services, water authorities, animal humane societies, private and public care services such as the Salvation Army, local councils. So it's not just the firefighters running in there. There's a lot more people, and this creates more risk for people if they're not protected against the smoke inhalation. So let's have a look at the difference between urban and wildland firefighting. On the left side, you can see this is your normal standard urban firefighter. This guy goes into a structural fire and he will fight the fire. On the right side, you'll see a wildland firefighter. The gear is much more lighter because they have to work for longer durations, and they also don't always have decent breathing protection available for these scenarios. If you can look at these guys, this is some Australian and American firefighters, wildland firefighters. They call themselves the hot shots. You can see these guys working in the most difficult conditions and for prolonged periods. And then there's also an urban interface. So also wildland firefighters will also try to stop these fires going into the urban areas, but the smoke and all the toxic gases still go into these areas. And sometimes the wildland firefighters are unsuccessful in stopping these fires and people have to evacuate. And this is quite a concern because some of these people doesn't even understand and know the risk behind these fires. And then when we look at the common hazards that the people in a wildland firefighter faces, it's burns, respiratory burns because of the hot smoke and the hot air that they have to breathe in while fighting these fires, post-traumatic stress, workplace injuries such as broken bones and sprains, and then also carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide inhalation. And this is what we're trying to protect the user against. And when you look at firefighting vehicles, they call it the fire overrun. This is now where a wildland firefighter vehicle goes into a wildland fire or a veld fire, and they try to support the teams. But eventually the winds turn and it starts to turn against the vehicles. And we know, I think it was in 2017 or 2018, where the national fires, where we had some volunteer firefighters lose their life because the fires turned and it came over the vehicle and the guys unfortunately perished inside the vehicles. The problem with this is there's plastic in these vehicles, there's other materials that can burn, can create toxic gases, and because of this, the guys usually don't die of the fire, but they die of smoke inhalation and all the toxic gases. So when we look at a little bit closer to home, you can see that our Cape Town fires, the teams are always fighting these fires on the mountain, and we've seen this in many news reports previously, and these guys are really struggling to protect themselves and also do the job effectively at all times. So when we look at wildland firefighting in South Africa, you can see they are very proud while working on fire teams. They're trying to stop these blazes, but sometimes maybe ill-equipped or not even having the equipment or not enough staff to support this. It could have changed from when this photo was taken, but it's always difficult for these guys to fight these raging fires and protect themselves against these fires. If we look at some of the wildland fire statistics here in South Africa, you can see there is a graph that says over this certain period of time the wildland fires has increased, and we can all, it's a debatable topic. Yeah, the global warming has an impact on this. So yes, there is an effect on our climate change that has more impact on wildfires. When you look at 2016 fires in South Africa, we can see during the dry months, specifically in the northern parts of South Africa, the dry months, the number of fires have increased tremendously. So that is due to fields much more dry, there's no rain, and then these fires starts easy. A guy walking into a field, he doesn't care what he's doing, he's smoking something, he throws it into the field, he doesn't notice that, listen, but that small little amber could cause a wildfire to go uncontrolled and start destroying assets, destroying farms, the livestock, etc., etc. And what we also don't understand is due to a lack of discipline, people tend to throw away plastic items, bottles, and all those type of things in these fires, or in the fields that they pass. And then eventually, when there's a fire, it is not just the fire smoke from the field and the grass and the trees and everything that the firefighters have to compete against. It's also the plastic and all the rubble and trash that is in the fields that causes extra smoke, extra how can I say, chemicals to burn, and then they struggle to kill these fires because some plastics burn quite, how can I say, ferociously, and it causes plastic to drip, cause new fires, etc., etc. And if we look at the cost for the fire, it cost about 750 million rand, dollars in damages in 2015 alone, and this is quite a substantial number. So how can Dräger protect you, and what do we want to protect? So everybody understands that when we breathe in 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, and the rest is all our noble gases. When we exhale, 16%, and remember, this is the process we want to protect. If you add any other gases in here, the body starts causing problems for you. So we are trying to protect your lungs and also the alveoli. The alveoli is the transport of oxygen into the blood, and this is what helps us stay alive. Oxygen, we need oxygen to breathe. Oxygen is our energy that we burn in our body to keep on moving, keep on working. Now, for firefighters, this is quite difficult when carbon monoxide is entered into the body. When carbon monoxide enters into the body, carbon monoxide's how can I say, the hemoglobin of the blood, the red blood cells affinity to carbon monoxide is 250 times more than oxygen. So the red blood cells would rather accept the carbon monoxide molecules rather than the oxygen. And this is now where the problem comes in. When the carbon monoxide enters the body, it's so difficult to get rid of it. This is why you need pure oxygen to assist people that has carbon monoxide poisoning or that breathe in carbon monoxide for a long period of time. So when you look at the smoke inhalation, what is the different types of, how can I say, impacts on the body? It can irritate the eyes and sinuses, gives headache, irritate the throat, difficulty breathing, increased fatigue because there's no oxygen coming into your body, and you can also have asthma attacks and chest pains. So when we breathe on optimal oxygen percentage that we want to breathe in is more than 19.5. The lower you get, you can also see that you're going to there's some problems that's going to occur, like mental failure, fainting, and then eventually, if you don't have any oxygen in your body after 8 minutes, it's 100% fatal. And then our big problem with wildland firefighters is carbon monoxide and also carbon dioxide. These two gases are really, really dangerous for our firefighters. If they get in too much and without early warning systems or any gas monitoring systems telling them, listen here, you've exceeded your limit of carbon monoxide inhalation. If you do start to get in too much, then you will start becoming unconscious and you will start passing out and people will start dying. So we know there is some political and social pressures, and it's really difficult for private fire services and also government to equip everyone with the correct respiratory protection. In New South Wales, the teams there have standardized on Dräger full face masks with filtering mediums, where they go into wildland firefighters to protect their users and help them breathe clean, fresh air. This is just one of the results that we got from the previous, from a different maker that we tested. And if you can see there how some of these filters that they used on a 3-hour exposure, you can see the difference between the inside of the filter and the outside, and how effective these filters are. Now imagine that is that brown stuff, that is all the smoke and soot that is that the filter has blocked for you to breathe in. Now, if you get that into your lungs, you can understand what the different how can I say, the damages to the lungs can cause, and what long-term effects you will have in terms of medical problems. So this is just one of our best practices in New South Wales as well, where the teams are using our full face mask with the filtering devices. And then what can we as Dräger offer? Now, I'm going to quickly go through this slide. So from Dräger's perspective, we offer training on the different types of equipment that you use, the correct equipment that you use. We offer the different products that you use in the actual incident. And then when it comes to readiness, we ensure that all the equipment is always calibrated and ready for the next use. It is always important to understand that if you buy a product, you can't just use it once and let it lie around, and then after a few months use it again. You need to periodically check it, because this type of equipment will help protect you and ensure that long-term health can be ensured. Then there's some global trends in the world that we also look after: health and fitness, urbanization, connectivity, and demographic diversity. When it comes to the fire services, I can answer questions if you have any questions regarding this slide. We can also go a lot more deeper, but unfortunately my time is a little bit limited. When we design our systems, we work on our strengths for usability, safety plus, and connectivity, and then also serviceability. We don't just look after selling a product to you, but we also try to provide you the correct product for the correct application. We always make sure that our products are safe to use, and we also make sure that our products can be serviced after use. So when it comes to breathing protection, there's 2 different classifications of breathing protection, where we have purified protection and also supplied air. One works with a system that it's only using filtered air systems, and then the other one uses compressed air, like a BA that a firefighter would use. From eye protection point of view, we also offer different types of eye protection products that is certified to all the EN standards. We have your standard normal FFPs that we all kind of got well introduced to the past 2 years with the pandemic. But these masks don't just offer normal protection against bacteria and viruses, but it also protects you against different types of scenarios in fires. Then we have different half masks with different types of filters specifically for the application. We have different types of full face masks to make sure we have eye protection and breathing protection with filtered devices. And then we also offer fit tests. Now remember, if a mask doesn't fit properly onto your face, you will have leaks in your mask, and this will also cause you to breathe in the toxic air from the outside. We also offer powered air purifying respirators. These respirators are used in different industries, also the firefighting industry. This unit can also cool you inside a hood and also protects you like a normal filtered air device will. And then we have different types of accessories and 2 different products that you can use. When it comes to third-party rescue, or you need an escape device, we have the Para550. The Para550 can also be used in your wildland firefighting. It can be used by anyone if you need an escape device. If you were caught in a situation where you can't get out and you're starting to struggle to breathe, you can use the system. It is a 15-minute escape set. You put it on your head. It has a clear visor. You can breathe fresh, clean air that is filtered, and you can try and make your way out of where you are. You can also use it if someone is stuck in a fire and you go and support them. You can also use the suit to bring them out. Then on the supplied air, people have always asked, but wildland fires are long duration firefighting. Yes, but in certain cases we can use self-contained breathing apparatus for certain applications in firefighting. Then if you look at the self-contained breathing apparatuses, we offer different ranges for self-contained breathing apparatuses depending on the application again. And then from an escape perspective, if the oxygen in the air has been displaced and you need another form of oxygen to breathe, we have these saver units which can help you with 15 or 10 minutes worth of air to breathe to get out of certain scenarios, breathing fresh air. Okay, when it comes to gas detection, we offer also gas detection specifically for HCN and CO. We call them the toxic twins. They are very dangerous, and as I mentioned with carbon monoxide, it starts to disable the body when you breathe it in, and the body likes CO more than it likes oxygen. So if you can monitor it, you can get an alarm from it to say, listen, I've been exposed too much to these areas, then the unit will alarm and it will tell you, listen here, you need to get out of these areas to be safe. We also offer different types of single gas monitors, and we also offer different types of combined multi-gas monitors if you're in a position where different gases, you're going to be exposed to different types of gases. We also offer a different range of protection helmets, from your full-fledged jet style helmet all the way to our rescue helmets. The helmets comes in different colors. So if you have planes flying overhead, you have the bright yellow or the orange to indicate, listen, I have people in this area, I must drop the water in a safe area. Because if your people on the ground is not visible, the plane will not know. And if you have tons of water dropping on your head, you can cause injuries. We also have thermal imaging cameras if you want to identify source of fires, and if you want to identify if there's people in the field, people lying next to fires, we have the thermal imaging cameras that will assist you in that method. Then we also have breathing systems for inside the fire vehicles, that if you have a fire overrun, then you can activate the system and it will give fresh breathing air for the occupants inside the vehicle. Then if there's any smoke coming into the vehicle, we can give them fresh air and they can leave the area safely without being inhibited not to do so. Then when it comes to our post-incident, we have full workshop solutions. We can support you with training on the equipment. We can support you on how to clean and disinfect the equipment, because you must be sure that your equipment is clean and disinfected. After a fire, your equipment and your clothing smells like fire and soot and all the carcinogenics that is on top of you. You need to clean and disinfect it with the correct chemicals to make sure you kill all these unnecessary soot on your equipment. So we can support you with full-fledged workshops or just a standard cleaning disinfection solution. We are there to support you with that. And then for the guys looking into breathing systems, we have also full-fledged systems that we can support you in this sense. So we have Engineering Solutions Center that if you have a specific need for teams to be kitted out with specific needs, we can support you with our Engineering Solutions Center and to make sure that everybody's prepared going into the different types of fires that you're going to be exposed to. And that is me in a nutshell. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Wimpie. I think this was very insightful and very much needed to understand the practical solutions that Dräger offers. Please remember to raise any questions in the chat box for Emil or Wimpie. Next up, we have Kishugu, and we are welcomed this morning by Tony Mancos, who is the CEO for Kishugu Training. Tony is a certified internal auditor and chartered governance professional who has previously worked at the Office of the Auditor General as a senior manager within the public sector. Today, Tony runs Kishugu Training, a wholly owned subsidiary of Kishugu Holdings, very successfully, where he started as the group executive for governance and risk in 2016. He is actively involved in identifying trends and opportunities within the training industry to provide clients and staff with a satisfying experience through cutting-edge solutions, project delivery, and career fulfillment. He places the needs of the client as integral to developing, refining, and delivering the training experience. Tony is a go-getter and thrives on building professional business collaborations and relationships with clients and potential clients. We are also welcomed from Kishugu, from working on fire, Mr. Pieter van der Merwe, who is the operations executive. And he will assist with any questions and answers at the Q&A after the presentations. Pieter has 40 years of experience in the forestry and firefighting fraternity, of which 11 years within the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and in the Environment, and in Department of Environment, and 17 years with Sappi Forests. In his early career, Pieter worked for the Working on Fire program for 6 years as operational manager and managing director. Throughout his career, he was involved in compiling integrated fire management plans for forestry companies in South Africa, such as the Department of Forestry, Sappi, and York Timbers. The regional approach for integrated fire protection proved to be the most successful, with significant reductions in wildfire hazards and damage recorded, while simultaneously reducing fire protection costs. For the past 5 years, Pieter has returned to the program where his experience is well applied to the strategy and the vision of Working on Fire, which is implemented by Kishugu. Tony will speak to us now about the training of all aspects of fire and fire management, highlighting the risk and benefits thereof. Thank you, Tony. You have the floor.
Morning, Andrea. Just wondering if my screen is showing, and let me get that up. Is everyone there? Can we see the slides?
Yes, we can. You can proceed.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to thank Agri SA for this opportunity to discuss the importance of training in all aspects of fire and fire management for landowners. Looking at potential risks when facing fire seasons with limited training, and also the benefits of following a proactive strategy in terms of integrated fire management solutions. With the season already in full swing, it might leave some landowners in distress, especially if one thinks of the absolute destruction wildfires can cause to one's property. But today, I would like to put your mind at ease so that you can rest assured that your property can be well taken care of if you have the correct measures in place when wildfires occur. Just some background on Kishugu. Kishugu has over 30 years of experience in various global landscapes affected by fire. We have done extensive work in protecting, preventing, and suppressing wildfires, based on applied research on all aspects of wildfire. For the last 15 years, this expertise has enabled Kishugu to successfully implement integrated fire management solutions, a concept that Kishugu developed. Given the high incidence and impact of annual wildfires in wildland-urban interface areas, our overall strategy applies the principles of integrated fire management to reduce the overall risk, frequency, and severity of uncontrolled fires. We combine sound land management principles and firefighting expertise, and you can significantly mitigate these risks through proper training. Integrated fire management systems or solutions are used globally in fire-prone countries to successfully and efficiently manage wildfires. Integrated fire management consists of 5 solutions, which we call the 5 R's: reduction, readiness, response, and recovery and research. The integrated fire management incorporates different fire management activities in a strategic framework to reduce the overall likelihood and impact of wildfire risk. Kishugu provides all aspects of integrated fire services to our country's affected sectors, including the agricultural industry. 80% of the focus is placed on the proactive sections, which include the reduction and readiness solutions. It is essential to take preventative measures to counter the start and spread of fires on our land. Readiness speaks to establishing systems and acquiring and capacitating resources to mitigate the risks of fire and effectively respond to unwanted wildfires that may occur. But if the shift is to proactive planning, it isn't done in a proactive, structured, collaborative way, it will not be effective and will quickly become reactive, which could lead to a disaster. Maintaining an 80% proactive focus takes planning, collaboration, and dedication with all stakeholders involved. Fires don't respect cadastral boundaries, and integrated fire management shouldn't either. Therefore, I'd like to take you through the Kishugu's IFMS model, which proves to be successful and is used globally today in various landscapes affected by wildfire. Through this, you will learn to understand the effectiveness and that training takes place in all aspects to assist you in competently reducing
Tony?
Dit lyk vir my Andrea, daar's 'n uitdaging by Tony. Ek weet nie of hy aan julle kant ook vries nie.
Hy vries aan my kant ook. Dankie, Emil. Goed, ek dink. Okay, thanks for that. Let me ask Tony quickly if I don't know if somebody from his team can also just assist that side. But I think let's then go to the question and answer session, if that is fine, not to waste any time while Tony reconnects. Is that fine? Great. Okay, Emil, there's a question for you in the chat box. I'm gonna switch over to you, and
100%.
It's specifically related to fire protection associations. Let me just get the question here. So, a fire protection association volunteer member helping out a fire on another farm has his bakkie get stuck and burnt out by a fire overrun. Does he claim from his own insurance? If this vehicle was not insured, can he claim against the farmer?
Excellent. Thank you, Jack, so much for the question. If he's got insurance in place for his vehicle, he may submit the claim under his own insurance, but it's getting more technical if we then go to say, but he is without insurance, will he be successful to claim against the farmer on whose farm the fire started or ignited? Because we know with the illustration by hand, Jack, we said he needs to hold that farmer legal liable for the tangible property. But there are so many elements that will also come into play and be activated in terms of negligence and liability that I will suggest, and if it's fine with Andrea, we will get the legal expert to respond on how will I go about and on what merits will I be successful to claim against the liability portion of the farmer. So thank you so much for that question, Jack. I will attend and make sure that we also send the feedback from the legal expert to everyone.
Thank you, Emil, for answering that. While Tony and Pieter are still reconnecting, apologies for the technical difficulties experienced. I'm going to ask Wimpie, there's a question in the chat box for you. Do you offer trainings to farmers? Secondly, do you have offices in the Eastern Cape? Thirdly, do you have a relationship with water services and fire and rescue department at local municipalities? I'm sure that you have seen the question in the chat box.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. Number one, yes, we do offer training to farmers, but remember, this training is not how you fight fires and how you identify different types of fires and how to fight it. Our training is predominantly focused on the product that you use to make sure that you use the product the correct way as intended. So depending on what product you have, we support you through and through with that type of training, definitely. We are setting up new offices. We are building and we are launching our new offices in August in Eastern Cape. We have 3 branches already, the main office here in Johannesburg, in Woodmead, other branch in Durban, and another branch in the Western Cape, but we have a full sales team supporting the Eastern Cape. Thirdly, yes, we have a relationship with many water services and fire and rescue departments and local municipalities. Everywhere where you basically see someone running towards fire, we will have a Dräger product running with them. So yes, we definitely have some people on board with that. But if you have any questions regarding that, or you need support from that, I think Andrea and everybody will share the information so you can get in contact with us.
Thank you, Wimpie. Yes, definitely. We will share the information and contact details after the webinar, especially the link to the YouTube video of this recording, as well as the presentations. Emil, I've got another question for you. Are liability cover for animals included under the public liability section of a policy?
Thank you, Andrea. Yes, as part of the public liability section, we extended the policy to include cover for your animals. It will be exactly the same general limit as your general limit or insured amount. And we do exactly the same also for hunters liability. It's part and parcel of the general liability. So yeah, you're 100% correct with the question that it will be included automatically. And one needs to make sure, if it's a different insurer, make sure that they also do it. But at Santam, your animal liability, hunter's liability, women's house liability is also part of your general liability.
Thank you, Emil. I see that our guest from Kishugu is again back online. Tony, if I can ask if you can start sharing your screen. But while you are doing that, I just have a last question for Wimpie. In terms of the South African law, is there approvals on the system for safety for users of these equipment?
Yes, South African law states, obviously, most of us know the SABS, South African Bureau of Standards. So we work closely hand in hand with the South African Bureau of Standards and the National Regulatory Compulsory Specifications to make sure that all the equipment coming into the country, Dräger is a German company. It is a European standard, but the NRCS and SABS has adopted the EN standard for South Africa as well. So everything coming into the country, we will do a homologation on the system, the breeding system, and only after the system has been homologated according to law, then you can only sell and use the system. So it's really difficult sometimes to compete against the stuff that goes through the cracks. Like I don't want to mention anything, but or anybody, but there's always low quality equipment coming through the cracks, and sometimes people think that this equipment quality is the standard that is needed. But if you go look at the law, the SABS has to approve and homologate the systems, and Dräger is working hand in hand with the SABS to ensure that all the systems coming in is according to the EN approval, and only then we can support the customer with the product. So yeah, we are closely working with the SABS.
Thank you so much, Wimpie, for providing feedback on that. Tony, can I ask if you can then proceed now with your presentation?
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, so what does the Act say? The National Veld and Forest Fire Act of 101/98 aims to prevent and combat veld, forest and mountain fires throughout South Africa. We know that old habits die hard, so landowners might already be equipped with the correct training to mitigate the risks in each land management area. Still, many landowners are unaware of the legislative requirements, which could be detrimental if not complied with. Also, every owner on whose land a fire may start or burn, or from whose land it may spread, must have such equipment, protective clothing, and trained personnel for extinguishing fires as prescribed. How can this be done? While it's important to belong to a fire protection association, and people should be adequately trained to prevent and fight wildland fires effectively. The first part of the integrated fire management wheel includes the topics like legislation, education and awareness, fire breaks, and fuel load reduction. Fire reduction is a set of activities developed to mitigate and manage the start and spread of fires, and navigation of legislation during the implementation phase. To start with and comply with legislation expects us landowners should identify ecological conditions affecting fire danger. This means that landowners should understand where the high-risk areas are on their properties and that of their neighbors. There should be a felt management strategy for each area, and it is essential that training is provided to surrounding communities. By having proactive strategies, fire plans, and proper firefighting training, you mitigate the risks of the spread of fire. Find a map of your farm with clear boundaries to know precisely where your and your neighbor's farm's boundaries are, and identify the high-risk areas. Mark dams and water points for reaction teams in the case of aerial firefighting operations. Legislation also requires landowners to get firefighting management and prevention training. Only through formal training can you safely and responsibly manage your land and property against wildfires. This brings me brings us to the education and awareness side of things. Landowners should provide management service training and support for communities in efforts to manage the prevention, detection, and control felt fires. Landowners should upskill their workers and communities to understand the dangers of fire and how to reduce fire risk through fire prevention and protection and suppression activities. Fire awareness and training contributes to risk mitigation and fulfills legislation requirements. Kishugu has a tried and tested fire awareness training program. This can easily be passed on to farm workers and also to the community. Making fire awareness officers helps prevent unwanted fires in the area. Did you know that 90% of felt fires are caused by arson? Therefore, make fire breaks to reduce the risk of fire spread of fire. Remember, fire is a good friend, but a bad master. Use fire to benefit you. Fire breaks will only partially reduce fire spread risk. Even with fire breaks, even with fire breaks, it's important to know that this will only partially help you with the risk of spread of fire. Remember, it is important to note that landowners should be able to identify unsafe fire acts and conditions on their property. Prescribed burning or fire breaks can also be underestimated. You must be able to control burns on various purposes and coordinate team activities in control burn operations. Adequate training is necessary to implement the control burn activities aligned to local fire plans and mop up the fire line on burnt areas to prevent fire spread and reignition. Therefore, as a landowner, you and your farm workers will benefit greatly from basic to advanced firefighter training to fire awareness training. You should know the different types of fire and fire prevention procedures. Teams also have to understand how to operate firefighting equipment and techniques. Even with fire breaks that play a role in the risk of the spread of fire. When you reduce the fuel load in your high-risk areas, your team needs to know how to operate chainsaws and brush cutters to minimize the fuel loads effectively. Spraying herbicides or killing alien invasives is also a way to reduce these fuel loads. It will be beneficial if you could prepare for manual fuel load reduction as well. To keep your teams refreshed and ready for each fire season, one can do annual pre-season refresher training for all your workers on chainsaw, brush cutters, manual fuel load reduction, and also herbicide application. Now you're fire ready. Farmers can undergo many training courses in this field. Some of the training courses include the ICS training, driver training, crew leader, and fire supervision training. ICS training comes in handy when you are fire ready, as you can prepare and control strike attack wildfires and mobilize resources for suppression. This will enable you to mobilize these resources during a wildfire. Close collaboration in terms of basic IC teams should always be ready. And IC structure is a very cost-effective way, as it avoids duplication of efforts regarding issues landers might face. Anything from routine events or complex emergency incidents can be used through the ICS structure. ICS teams are essential to incidents, as each team member has a specific role to fulfill. It allows personnel from various agencies to mold rapidly into a conventional management structure. It provides logistical and administrative support to ensure operational staff can meet the incident objectives. Formal training provides the most effective and efficient way to meet the ICS requirements. Training simulations are also done as part of the practice training, which provides an opportunity to actually fit into an ICS structure on a real life-based scenario. Driver training is quite essential and should assist you in the correct vehicle selection, make your vehicle to fit for purpose. But it is also essential that drivers have the necessary driving skills to know where to drive and when a fire breaks out and how to escape without accidents, as one can quickly put the driver and his crew in danger when fire behavior is. Crew leader training or supervisor training is essential and will benefit you by understanding skills and processes required to manage a single resource during a wildland fire suppression incident. Crew leaders understand the terms, concepts, and goals for managing any wildfire problem and can interpret the 3 dimensions of the wildland. They can carry out pre-fire procedures, respond to fire calls, and perform post-fire operations. With wildland and advanced firefighter training, we instill discipline and fit protocols to ensure firefighters are mentally and physically ready in stressful situations. If firefighters are disciplined on the fire line. Ready to respond to a fire? Response solution as part of the IFMS is a set of coordinated actions to bring the right resources with accurate information to unwanted fire without delay. Our aerial resources and ground teams are significant in this aspect in areas where Kishugu and working on fire are involved. Aerial firefighting is essential and landowners need to identify the area's safety hazards and receive the necessary training in this regard. If your area will be making use of aerial resources for initial extended attack on the fire line, farm workers can be trained to assist in loading water bombers, and this could assist with their crop spraying initiatives as well. Suppressing the fire, farmers are usually the first people on the fire line. Therefore, staff need to be adequately trained to start dealing with the fire. Firefighters should be disciplined and fit. You must know what equipment to use and how to use it to ensure no loss of life or minimization of loss of life, livestock, or property. Suppression during the wildfire takes skilled and qualified people to ensure safety on the fire line. IC teams that you will form part of must be trained to prepare for strike attacks and be able to do pre and post fire procedures and demobilize strike attack resources. To be actively involved in fire suppression, you must apply sound fire suppression actions using firefighting teams, vehicles, and aircraft. A skilled workforce will be able to identify unsafe acts and conditions and apply standard safety rules to overcome dangerous fire situations. It is imperative to demonstrate safety procedures in wildland suppression situations. Ground teams must be able to identify and explain basic characteristics of fire behavior to enable safe and efficient fire suppression. We provide simulations in this regard so that the firefighters are able to go out onto the field and be quite effective from the start. Landowners can use manual methods and procedures to extinguish fires and learn verbal and hand signal communication instructions. Ask yourself, does your firefighter team or farm workers know how to use water hose equipment or how to conduct mop-up procedures? Do they know how to prepare any form of maintenance on your equipment? Do they know how to prepare any form of maintenance on the equipment? If not, you have to consider training for them. How to recover your land after a disaster wildfire. So apart from doing extensive research on fire behavior and the causes thereof after a wildfire broke out, it is also essential to understand the aftermath of wildfire rehabilitation of the burnt area. We provide training in this regard to assist the landowner to get back to the land to how it was, making sure that they reduce any issues of soil erosion or alien invasives invading their farms. We can offer any course you require regarding firefighting. We are leaders in the industry with an excellent track record, working on fire being our case study. We are a level 1 BBB company and an accredited service provider. We can tailor-make any course to suit your needs and train you at your facility or venue that you may require. I want to leave you with 6 tips to be fire ready. Tip 1, find a map of your and your farm, neighbor's farm with clear boundaries and identify high-risk areas. Mark various points like your dams and water points for the IC team. Train your staff. Even if you start with only 1 course at first, it reduces risk. Mark roads, water points, blocks, sheds, homes, and other critical infrastructure on your farm for support teams. Ensure fire unit, fire equipment is working. Do a pre-season review of your equipment. Tip 5, mark, plan exit routes to evacuate. Make sure your family and farm workers know which roads to use. Check whether your gates are high and wide enough for fire trucks to enter and exit without hassles. Kishugu Training accreditation. We're accredited by the FPM-CETA and other CETAs. We're also affiliated as members with the South African Forestry Contractors Association. We provide a vast number of variety of courses other than the ones relating to integrated fire management services. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony, for this insightful presentation. Training, I think, is perhaps one of the most important aspects of firefighting. And thanks for the safety tips. I think everybody can take a little bit of that home today. Now we have about 10 minutes or 8 minutes to answer some of the Q&A questions raised in the chat box. As stated earlier, we will circulate the presentations to the attendees afterwards. And we have already answered some of the questions earlier. I'm going to start off by asking again a question to Emil. It came up on the chat box. How do you work with communal lands in terms of fire risk of under livestock cover?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andrea. Livestock cover, at this stage, I can confirm it is not available for a section or without supported business. So we quite often receive the question, can and will we attend to communal livestock to say, will we be able to insure it? But at this stage, I can confirm it, Santam, only on supported business, where we insure and we do a spread of the risk, we will be able to attend to livestock insurance. So I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Emil. No, that definitely did. If there is any other more questions, we can take it offline with the team. I'm going to ask now a question and raise it to Tony or Pieter from Working on Fire. Can you please provide us with the exact legislation that governs the training and measures that farmers has to have in place?
Andrea, can you repeat that question, please?
I can do so. Can you please provide us with the exact legislation that governs the training and measures that farmers has to have in place? If there is any of that legislation applicable.
Yeah, Andrea, no, the legislation is not quite clear on that. It just says that you must have trained workers on your farm and they must receive some training. So that's not very clear. But if you go to the Veld and Forest Fire Act, what the farmer needs to have in place regarding fire breaks and equipment, the act is quite specific what needs to be done. We knew how to prepare fire breaks and the agreements that you need to have in place with your neighbors.
Thank you so much. I've got another question for you. Is what legal implications are there if any of my farm workers who are not adequately trained and a runaway fire enters my neighbor's farm without me being able to stop it in time?
I think, when the fire does start on your property and it does spread to your neighbor, they will have to have a holistic look on what is the original cause of the fire. Did you have sufficient equipment? Did you have some trained personnel on your property? And did you do everything in your power to try and stop that fire from spreading to your neighbor? And also, obviously, very critical, did you have the necessary fire breaks in place? So this will be a holistic view to see if you cover all these aspects.
Thank you very much, Pieter, for answering that. Wimpie, I know that we spoke earlier just before we had the webinar, and we were talking about possible questions that we can raise, and you mentioned that it would be good to talk to us about how do you maintain or repair some of these equipment. If you can just elaborate on that specifically.
Yeah, sure, definitely, Andrea. When it comes to different types of protective equipment, you must understand that from the OEM, which is the original equipment manufacturer, there's guidelines that you have to follow to ensure that you have the equipment not just for one fire, but for fires that for any future fires. So when it comes to servicing and maintaining the equipment, we can also support any customer with our product to train them up in a sense that they can also have look at maintaining and repairing the equipment on site. And then from the OEM's point of view, we can come out maybe every 6 months or every year just to do an OEM certification to certify that this product is still ready to be used in the different types of fires. So, but we also support with service teams that can go out all around South Africa to assist with this. So we don't have everyone should understand, when you buy a piece of equipment, you're for a sum or a bunch of money, you can't expect to have use it once. You need to basically look after it, so it's a little bit more sustainable. You don't have to repurchase the expensive equipment at the end of the day.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Wimpie. I'm going to refer now to the last question here in the chat box, and it's from Jack Armour, and it's addressed to Tony. And it's about readiness. What pre-agreements or contracts or contacts should each fire protection association have to quickly activate the working on fire if a fire gets out of control for a local fire protection association? So many FPAs rely on the umbrella association and don't have its own direct contact. What is preferable? What don't belong what don't belong to an umbrella FPA?
Andrea, it's Pieter. I'll try and answer this. Unfortunately, we only have so much resources available. And currently, we have got partnership agreements with 72 FPAs across the country. And those FPAs, when they need our resources, or a FPA member within those FPA need a resource, they will contact the FPA, and then we will activate the resource in that specific FPA.
Thank you so much for answering that, Pieter. We are now at the end of our webinar, and I want to thank the presenters as well for their contribution. And if you just look at the chat box, all the nice comments that we received today for this webinar and the insightful information shared. I would like to give our committee member for the Natural Resources Centre of Excellence here at Agri SA, Mr. Hannes de Wet, an opportunity to close the webinar with some final remarks.
Good day, everyone. Sorry for not being able to use my camera, but you don't miss anything. I want to thank all of the presenters from Santam, Emil, Pretorius. For sure, insurance is an investment. It's something important to have, but you hope never to use it. And then from Wimpie van Onselen, from Dräger, protecting yourself in case of a fire, and in using equipment to protect yourself when you're on the fire line. It's getting hot there, and the breathing and the gases are very dangerous for yourself. And then Tony Mancos, being trained is the most important part of fire protection. Integrated fire management is very important in every part of this country. We have had a couple of fires last year, and being trained and being organized in your region is very important for that. And then to Andrea for hosting this event, very well done, and thank you very much. And then all the attendees, I see there's about 400 of them. We're glad you have attended this webinar, and we hope that you have learned something from today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannes, and have a great day, everyone, and thank you for attending. I officially close.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy.
May the blessing overtake each and everyone. Thank you.